I see Mrs. Kgomo is here. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where's Doc today, Mabisa?
He's joining us shortly, Madam Speaker, and we are live right now.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I guess we can start now. We are 2 minutes. Yes, we are 2 minutes after our starting time. We were supposed to start at 6:30 as we have advertised. But please allow me to greet and say good evening to our beloved guests and residents at home who are tuned in on the different social media platforms and radio stations. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my weekly show known as The Talk with the Speaker of Council. My name is Nhlaka Nedzamba. I am the Speaker of Council in the city of Johannesburg. Please do follow me on my own social media pages, which are Nhlaka Nedzamba on Facebook and @speaker_COJ on Twitter. We are also live on at City of Joburg. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we host our engagement on a Thursday due to a clashing engagement that we had last night, and we apologize to our viewers and our followers for that. Let me take this opportunity to thank our host and partner, Dr. Fundile Nyati, who will be joining very soon, for providing us with this platform. This ultimately means that our community radio partners, such as Ijozi FM, Chai FM, will not be live with us today as we are outside our usual slots. As you know that we normally connect with yourselves on Wednesdays this time. They will take the stream and play it on air at a later time, but we are joined by Josie Pulse. I hope Josie Pulse is here in Nhlaka. That is the City Online radio station. Fellow residents, yeah, are they here? Thank you.
I believe so, ma'am, yes.
Thank you very much. Fellow residents, this month marks an important month in our calendar. As you know, August is a time in which we commemorate the iconic South African women that fought in the struggle against apartheid. Some of the most revered from freedom fighters and political activists that were involved in fighting South Africa's liberation, including Abomamu Helen Joseph, Abomamu Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Abo Albertina Sisulu, Abo Charlotte Maxeke, to name but a few. Women's Month is also a time where we empower, we honor, and celebrate the beauty and strength of South African women in our society today. We kickstart our Women's Month by hosting a dialogue that speaks to the importance of peace and nation building in our country. You know, okay, I got stuck here. All right, I'm saying we kickstart our Women's Month by hosting this dialogue that speaks to the importance of peace and nation building in our country under the theme, Women's Peace Table Towards Reuniting and Rebuilding South Africa. Fellow residents, we all witnessed the recent spate of violence and attacks on our communities a few weeks ago. I think I speak for all when I say it is unexpected, as some of the sins took us back, you know, to those days of apartheid pre-1994. These incidents affected the livelihoods of many of our residents, from business to schools to hospitals, and is likely increase unemployment due to the effects on the economy. They are also likely to exacerbate the spread of the COVID-19 virus, leading to the more loss of life and more socio-economic and mental health challenges. This experience must highlight to each and every one of us the importance of peace building and cohesion in our communities. It was important for me, ladies and gentlemen, to bring together this dialogue Because even though the issue of violence and the looting is no longer making headlines in the media, its effects are long-term for our people on the ground. The focus for me was to highlight the work of Women's Peace Table so as to heighten the awareness levels of women's participation in peace negotiations, in preventative efforts, and other key decision-making processes related to peace and security as per their objectives, as well as to find ways for communities to plug in to some of these initiatives. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, that I feel very privileged to be joined by a panel of strong women and a young man who are peace mediators, who are activists and experts. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I am delighted to announce that we are joined by one of our own, Miss Mampurane Caron Kgomo, who is the coordinator of the Gertrude Shope Women's Mediators Network, former councillor in the city of Johannesburg. That is why I said one of our own. She is the former councillor of South Africa in the mission of Senegal, Dakar, representing South Africa. She is currently representing gender in the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, IDERCO. Mrs. Kgomo is a panelist. She is also going to take over from me as per request because I have another meeting which is also clashing with what we are doing today. And thank you very much, Madam, for agreeing to be abused by us this evening. We also have an attorney, Nomahlubi Khwinana, who is an attorney and is the acting judge of the Gauteng High Court and the deputy president of the Lady of Peace Community Foundation. Most welcome, Mama Nomahlubi. We also have Miss Celeste Diale. She is a director at Peace Board, brand architect, concept developer, and peace builder. Welcome, Ms. Diale. We also have Mr. Larry Cook, an attorney, generalist, and commercial specialist, and is with the United Nations Women's Youth Task Force. You are most welcome, Mr. Cook. To all our panelists, thank you very much for your presence and welcome. Thank you very much for availing yourselves on your busy schedule for the citizens of Johannesburg and to empower our citizens with knowledge. We really appreciate you. Let me start with Ms. Kgomo, who will then talk about the previous events relating to the kind of violence we have seen in our city. I would like us to talk about the impact, Mrs. Kgomo, that this violence has had on us as a society and on our economy. So if you can just take us through that, and I will hand over the batons to yourself afterwards. Thank you very much. Please unmute Mrs. Kgomo.
Honorable Madam Speaker, it is an honor and a privilege to really partake in this weekly talk show with Madam Speaker. I think you have really demonstrated a commitment of bringing government to the people and making yourself very accessible, that any citizen of the city of Johannesburg can be able to have this kind of conversation with you. It's a true demonstration of good leadership, and a leadership who's grounded on the ground, who's really in touch with her people. And also let me acknowledge and appreciate this singular honor of really wearing your shoes while you go and attend to pressing matters. But let me just get to the point that you have raised. You've already talked about the dedication that the month of August is really a month where we are honoring women and paying tribute to our veterans who have pioneered the struggle for women empowerment and gender equality. And you've also named a few of them. We know that this month is it's a celebration of the 150 years anniversary of May Charlotte Maxeke. The whole government, the whole of South Africa will be commemorating Charlotte Maxeke's legacy and other women. And then now you also spoke about the Gertrude Shopper Dialogue Forum, which we'll get to it later. But just responding to the question that you've really asked about the impact of violence on us as society and our economy. You know, in the aftermath of the looting spree in July, Johannesburg did not escape the destruction. And we have learned that about 200 malls were targeted, over 1,000 businesses were damaged, government offices were not spared, government offices damaged and some gutted, including post offices, home affairs offices. The South African Security Services offices were also looted, were also vandalized. The overall cost of the economic damages is estimated at around 1.5 billion. You can imagine the devastation that we experienced. So that is the impact that we had. And that is in Gauteng province, just to be specific to my province and my city. Over 150,000 jobs are affected. So there's a serious impact on jobs. With an unemployment rate of around 32%, excluding those that have given up on looking for employment, whose inclusion will take up the rate to about 39%. The damage of businesses and government centers will add to the high rate of unemployment. So basically that is the devastation and the impact that we have as a society. The first impact, and just to elaborate, is that it has an impact on unemployment. And secondly, access to basic services. And then as a city of Johannesburg, you are at the front of service delivery. We're looking up to you to get access to basic services. And basic services have been disrupted with offices damaged or gutted. How and now is the question to say, how are beneficiaries of those services going to access their monies? You know, those who are getting to social grants, how are they going to get access to those social grants? We know that they've just opened. It means that now government has to rethink and has to invest in other ways, other facilities where they can make those services accessible. While in the metros, the situation is salvageable. You know, I think that there are little things that we can salvage. But people in the rural areas, such as Sidibeng, Kalinen, Rayton, and those areas, they are really, they have to travel to longer distances to access services such as food. The other impact that we have seen is that on the issue on education. For damaged school, children have to be accommodated in churches and in halls, not always conducive for learning. And also the feeding schemes that were providing food for children has been disrupted. So you can see that there's actually an exacerbation of suffering and an impact on our communities. The other impact is that we have an issue of access to healthcare. The clinics, the hospitals, pharmacies were looted in the malls, they were damaged. That means that access to medication is really very impacted, and that makes healthcare unavailable. It affects practitioners like doctors and nurses and others who may not have to, who may have now to stay at home because they have nothing to do. They have nowhere else to look. So the recent incidents of violence and looting had really a very devastating effect on society, on our economy. It has increased the rate of unemployment. It has really compounded access to service delivery. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And now Is it at this point that I now have to take over?
Yes, please, Mrs. Kgomo, if you could
Okay.
take over. Thank you very much. But yeah, you can take over and then we will continue, and also getting our viewers to participate in the discussion through the communication with Sipho them. But you may continue in asking other panelists to also give their perspective.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and we wish you well with your next engagement. I am now going to take over from Madam Speaker and go to our next panelist, who has already been welcomed, Nhlaka Khwinana. Please, may I ask you to also come in and step in here and talk about how do we move forward as a society, and how do we take our communities along in the peace building processes, given those challenges that I've just outlined that are faced by our communities. If I can allow you to take the floor and respond to that topic and elaborate more for us. Thank you. Over to you, Nhlaka Khwinana.
Thank you, Kgomo. Thank you so much, and good evening to everyone, all protocol observed. Mine is it's an easy one, I believe, because I'm talking to issues regarding particularly women, as this is our month. So as women, I believe that we can play a major role in ensuring the change that we want to see. And I must say that women are born peacemakers. They are, I would say, in everything that they do it with passion. They serve. So it is imperative that if you're going to bring in anyone to change the narrative, the people that are coming in must be born leaders. Firstly, they must be taught, if not self-taught, especially women that are always self-taught. They must be accountable. They must have a plan on how we are going to move forward. You know, just now, you have alluded to the issue regarding looting. Surely, we should have been better prepared. Now, being a leader will entail looking into plans, a number of them, plans of eventualities, plans of succession, you know, plans on just how do we sustain whatever that we have. So I would say that it's a challenge, really, especially for us as a country, and even more for us women. And women known as being people that are imparting the knowledge at all times. And as a Lupeco, and of course, I'm wearing two caps tonight, as well as South African Women Lawyers Association. We have seen the gap, and we have said that let us take this opportunity and occupy this space. Now, how do we do that? We need to have conversations about what is transpiring around our communities. We need to teach about what is transpiring. People must be aware. The information must never be hidden. Remember, as women, we have always been told that we stay at home, but I suppose gone are those days. Today, we find ourselves sitting around the peace table. And I would say, Kgomo, for me, we want to occupy that space. We need to sit around that table. We are equals. Now, obviously in us being there, we are bringing in collaboration. We are bringing in everybody, you know, collaboration, of course, being the new currency, as Madam CEO will always say. We are bringing expertise. I believe that most women, you know, as much as they might not have gone to school, but they've got expertise of chief executive officers, because they usually occupy their spaces at home. They make sure that the people that are there are able to function. The children, they function. You know, you'll have a husband who will be so powerful at home, and yet a husband and a father in the home who is being led by that woman, you know? So we are bringing all those skills together. So we believe it is a process, and we need structures, we need methods that we can use in order to ensure that what is being taught is then filters down up to, you know, the next generation. But how can we do this other than just teaching, talking about this? And without us doing that, I don't believe that it is doable. And may I just hasten to, I'm not sure how long I've got, and I'm sorry I could not show my face at this time.
You can wrap up.
I can wrap up. Okay, yes, thank you so much. All right. Now, may I just also mention this, which I've come across, and that I thought, you know, it is very much important to share, that women are champions of men. They are gifted with equal mental capacities. She has the right to participate in the mutuous details in the activities of men, and she has an equal right of freedom and liberty with him, as it was then said by Mahatma Gandhi. Women have got the qualities of the most humble human being. They are born with humility. Women are self-taught. Women are capable, and women are accountable to all. Women are the only people that are able to treat others as equals, better than anyone else. And of course, thank you so much, Madam Kgomo. And of course, I will still add where it will be required of me. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mentabi Singh, for that insightful input. And I like the fact that you also spoke about the fact that there's more conversations that must take place, and where women must also play a role, that indeed women have got a lot of role to play in conflict resolution and peace and peace building activities. And that input is very important. And I think that just leads me to really just sharing with you what we have that has actually been developed during the past few weeks, where we have brought the Gertrude Shope Women's Mediation Network to the fore. You know, in 2015, DERCO launched a Gertrude Shope annual dialogue forum. And it was part of honoring the legacy of May Gertrude Shope, but it was also a forum of peace builders across the globe, as well as locally and provincial and national level, where we brought women from community level to come and have a conversation and help us in finding responses and practical steps that we can take to implement the resolution 1325. And we also established this to say, let us advocate for the establishment of a South African database of women mediators. because we know that women actually are peacemakers. They've been negotiating peace in their communities. They go to churches, you find that they hold meetings and gatherings where they are resolving peace. And out of that, the women who graduated from the capacity training program that DERCO was offering, continuously offering, who participated in the annual Gertrude Chopin annual dialogue forum, then established a Gertrude Chopin Women Mediators Network, whose champion, we have our patron as Gertrude Chopin herself. The network is an independent body of women peace builders from government, civil society, academia, private sector, and youth-led organization. It convenes during the National Women's Month and to set priorities for action towards peace and security in our country. The network members have become agents of peace buildings and are playing important peace building roles in their communities. The other thing is that this network, it serves as a coordinated support for women mediators effort for sustainable and gendered peace in local communities and at regional levels. This Gertrude Chopin Women Mediators Network held a peace table, which I will share with you later on. But I just want to give Celeste an opportunity. Celeste, you are a young and a powerful lady who also advocates for peace initiatives at grassroots levels. Please unpack the work that you have been doing as it relates to the Lady of Peace Community Foundation, and how can people get involved?
Good evening, listeners at home. Good evening,
Thank
viewers and listeners, and thank you so much, Mama Caron. You know what? In the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Lady of Peace Community Foundation really found an opportunity to become even more useful than it was before the pandemic. Although the pandemic really hurt many pockets and many hearts and many homes, and increasingly growing as a mode of communication, we decided we needed to become part of the household and figure out how we can get in touch with those who are aching in their homes and those who need peace in their homes as well. And so what we did was we started a chat room, which happens on WhatsApp on Thursdays and from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock. And what happens on the chat room is that we're operated on the WhatsApp platform, which requires an internet connection to send and receive messages. So if you're connected to the Wi-Fi, this is not a problem. But when you are out and about, the app uses a mobile data connection. So then this raises a question for the grassroots, which entails purchasing of data. And we have seen many of the voluntary participants from most of the rural areas leave this chat room due to affordability and competing priorities of sustainability. And this is the typical case with many that see in the internet that there are two sides into the internet coin. There is the brighter side that is held by those who can afford to buy the data and to stay connected to the world and access to COVID-19 in real-time information or update. And there's this dark side of those who will never be able to access any life-changing information in competition to accessing their next meal. And we appeal to the government to not only make data costs a basic need. And what I like about the foundation that I am so much involved, which is the Lady of Peace Community Foundation, is that not only does it connect you, but it advocates and empowers as well. And so from that, from the chat room, we expanded and realized that what is necessary is to actually go to the grassroots and connect with traditional leaders, like in Mafikeng we have done. We've been operating for over a year now with the chat room in Mafikeng, in one of the rural areas there, and we connect with the Khosi there, which is a traditional leader, Khosi Simausu. And what happens is they sit around and into the community center or in a home that they've chosen, and the chat room, the conversations will continue to go on, and the traditional leader will convey them the message, whether it be in their language and something that they can relate to, and they will engage with the conversation. So again, the Lady of Peace Community Foundation connected us, it advocated and it empowered us as the youth and put together a team of young people who were able to be so privileged to be a part of the Generation Equality Forum that then birthed the Peace Podcast, which is now a second way or another channel, a segue for us to have conversations like those that we have on the family online chat room. And now we have it on the podcast. So you might be asking yourself, like, how are the people going to be connecting to the podcast? But what we do is just going to use the same method in connecting with the traditional leaders and those who are already in the community, communicating with the community itself, and really become part of the community and understanding what are their needs and listening to their voices and really actioning out those conversations. Because what is a conversation and a dialogue at the end of the day without actions? So we are so privileged to be supported by the South African women in dialogue, to be supported as well by the Womenomics Africa platform, to be supported by Generation Equality Forum, and the United Nations Women. So as we are asking young people to come in and tag along and join in, don't be afraid to say, maybe you won't know how to podcast, maybe you don't know, maybe you've never heard of a podcast before. These platforms are there for us to learn, for us to build, for us to communicate, and to convey messages that will help us to break down some of the stereotypes and some of the ails that really hurt our community and doesn't give us the opportunity to communicate with one another in building. So these are some of the things that we are busy with right now. And I know that my colleague Larry is here as well, and we'll elaborate more on how you can really communicate with us. So you can find us easily on the socials. We are also on our WhatsApp number on the Peace Podcast if you want to get in touch with us. We are on our WhatsApp number is on 064 181 7123. So that would be really great for people to come in, communicate with us, tell us what it is that your community needs and how we can have solution-based conversations. Thank you so much, Mama Kgomo. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Solois. Thank you. And I hope that the young people are listening as you invite them to get involved, because peace also requires them to roll their sleeves and get involved. We want to have this conversation so that we know that the future that we are building is in the hands of young people who understand the building blocks of peace, that we don't want to leave anyone behind. And thank you for being a champion, for being an ambassador, and for being so vocal and creative about better ways of engaging young people. I'm always very impressed by the work that you do. And thank you. Now, I want to go to the young man, Larry. It's so good to see Larry on this platform today, and that he's getting involved in issues of community building of society. Larry, welcome on board. We know that it takes both men and women to establish peace and stability in our society. As the young man representing the UN Women's Youth Task Force, please share with us the work of the Youth Force and how young people can also get involved. Larry, over to you.
Thank you, Kgomo. Just also acknowledging all protocols, and just wanna shout out to all the panelists as well, specifically Celeste. I got my yellow beret over here, as you can see, Peace Pod. But with unpacking this topic, where does one really start? Because it's so rich and diverse in itself. But I think to give context from where I stand and where I come from, because I think it's really a privilege to find yourself on these type of platforms where you can engage at this level with leaders that are willing to actually make the change, because we find ourselves at a cross juncture where we ask ourselves, what are we going to inherit as the youth? Where are we going to find ourselves in the next coming years? And if we don't participate and if we don't engage, we can't point fingers or blame the lack of progress that's taken place. So I think to start off with the journey from the United Nations Women Youth Task Team, the story starts when I was probably 5 years old. 1995, the Beijing conference was held where over 189 governments participated and declared certain generation equality, or the ambition for generation equality, and alleviating the ailments that hinder and bind women unfairly. And there's obviously been many milestones. So to kind of answer the question directly and say, what is it that was done and what do? We kind of do everything. What is it that we don't do? But I think to hone into the conversation right now, considering it's Women's Month, is really around the advocacy and really about taking that advocacy to one level past awareness and getting participation and involvement, especially from a youth perspective. Because as we all know that based on the stats, the youth are the majority of the constituency of our country at the end of the day. It's the youth that's involved in both the good side and the bad side of any conversation that we can unpack. But I think just developing from the narrative of 1995, Beijing's conference, to where we find ourselves now, we are 25 years into the initial declarations of trying to achieve generational equality, and yet we still haven't achieved those goals. So there's been a progressive initiative to say we need to accelerate some of the initiatives that we're trying to land, as well as accelerate the agenda on most of these issues. I mean, just a month ago, the President Cyril Ramaphosa declared as one of the commitments at the Paris Forum of Generation Equality that procurement spend will increase up to 40% from a government perspective. And it's those type of tangible results and initiatives that the United Nations Women Forum is driving behind through generation equality. And as the Youth Task Force, which is the global youth task arena, we've been critical or pivotal in most of the decision making and contributing and getting the voices into the right tables, because at the end of the day, the help doesn't come from anywhere but from ourselves. I think there was a quote that someone mentioned and said, if you want something to be done, ask a man. If you want something to be done right, ask a woman. And I think that's the power that the United Nations Women has been providing to the platform on every type of engagement, where they've been bringing that voice of right. They've been bringing that voice of peace. They've been bringing that voice of build better. And I guess where I stand in my involvement as the youth task, a part of the youth task team, which is cascaded from the youth task force and implemented mostly in South Africa, so we can address the grassroots issues, is I find myself as a young Black African male to South African to advocate around why it's important to stand up for women, but not to do it in a condescending or in a way that is disgenuine or saying that we need to help women, but rather asking men, both my peers, both those younger than me and those older than me, to do some real introspection and ask real tough questions in terms of what we've been taught and the narratives we use, from bathroom conversations to where we find ourselves. Because as much as the women are building peace, I think it's time for the men to stop with the war, if we want to use that as an anecdotal example. But I find it pivotal that men need to understand that fighting for a cause bigger than yourself is cool. There is strength in that, and it's more honorable than looking away, than saying, no, it's just a woman issue, or no, it's just the woman in the societies, and all the narratives and the stereotypes that go with it. And I guess if we start from a youth perspective and start changing that narrative, it's we're more likely and more easy to achieve results in changing those narratives. I think it's important that even what was mentioned around the looting, we found ourselves as a society where these things aren't much of a surprise. In fact, it's sad that we're becoming so immune to it, because you'll find the looting wasn't necessarily the issue. It's problems that have started way before that. And I think if we take consciousness of the fact that we've been in lockdown for so long and what lockdown has actually created, these are just systemic impacts that have been exacerbated or even enhanced in some way, and is popping up like a jack in the box the whole time. And I think what's important is we need to unpack the question as where do we find ourselves and how do we actually recover? How do we get that education or get that knowledge and information to others so they can start unpacking these issues for themselves? Because you find that when the looting started, especially now talking from a youth perspective, when the looting started, the first institutions that were looted were the bottle stores. And you find that the irony behind that is the youth are also suffering from an addiction. Most of the addiction is not constructively dealing with issues that they have. And maybe just in closing, to wrap up, is if you understand what the issues or the plight is, or more so the causes, and as opposed to addressing the symptoms, we can be more constructive in progressing and finding sustainable solutions. And if you guys want to get involved and want to find more out, I refer you to generationequality website.org or the gefyouthjourney.org for more information, because there's just so much to unpack regarding what is actually triggering the youth and how do we get the youth more to play an active role, especially as men. Thank you. I'll just stop there for now.
Please unmute yourself.
You on mute.
Caron.
Thank you very much. Technology, you end up talking to yourself. I just want to give an opportunity to our listeners and those who are watching on social media platform. I would like to call on my colleagues who are managing this platform with me to take us through some of the comments that have come through the social media and even our WhatsApp or Twitter, Facebook, and so that we can have an interactive conversation with them. Over to you, Sipho, if you can just bring them to our attention. There will be comments and some will be directed to the panelists here. And as the panelists respond to some of the questions, which I'm going to give you an opportunity at the end of this, also use that opportunity to also make your closing remarks. Can I give an opportunity to our panelists? One of the things that I'm not really strong and good at is
Ma'am Kgomo, perhaps you can give it over
Yes.
to Sipho in the meantime.
Let me
Sipho,
give it to Yes,
thank
please.
you.
Okay, good evening,
Sipho, go
colleagues.
ahead.
Good evening, fellow panelists, and good evening, Ma'am Kgomo. Thank you very much. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for standing in for the Speaker of Council. Good evening to everybody. Just a few comments and questions that have just been coming through on our social media platforms. The first one coming from Paul Dlamini says, good evening, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much for hosting such an innovative show. I have been waiting for it as a businesswoman who has been affected by the looting. What plan does government have for affected businesses to recover again? And then there's a question from Tatom Kize who says, what is community-based peace building? This is from Simpiwe Mdlalose. And a question to Mr. Larry, as a man, how can I contribute in peace building? And then there's another comment from Tandino where it says, but it's men who start the wars. Why are we now having to shoulder the responsibility of making peace? Men get away with it too much in this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for these engagements. They are so insightful. How can young people get involved in these initiatives? This one comes from Nhlaka Nedzamba. I think I'll do the last one for now. And this one comes from Nhlaka Monyela. Says, I got confused for a second there. Ma'am Kgomo is doing a great job with the session. Wow, she is beautiful too. My view is we cannot talk peace without justice. The people who destroyed and looted our communities must be brought to book. I think I'm going to leave it there. There are comments on the chat group, Ma'am Kgomo. I'm not sure if you want to go through them or do you need assistance with going through those comments on the chat group?
If I can ask you to also go through those questions in the chat in the chat group, help me with them as well. And then the panelists are busy. I hope that they are taking down notes and they will be able to respond after that.
You are muted, Mr. Masigo.
Mute. My humble apologies. Thank you very much. There's one that comes from George Senosha says, powerful peace and Tabise women are truly born leaders and capable. They improvise when things are really bad for the better. And then there's another one says, thanks, Pisa Moses. Tandi Gulwa says, I want first to appreciate the opportunity to be part of this well-packaged debate on nation building, a program that was very close to the heart of our first democratic president, Mr. Nelson Mandela. Another one from George says, peace, Celeste, young as you are really devoted yourself to something that most youth will see it as a waste of time, as they are overwhelmed by what they are doing, what they are facing. You guys are the champion of change by leading by example. Big up, guys. South Africa is in good hands with you grabbing the bull by its horns and making things happen in our communities, especially the grassroots, and taking the language they are comfortable in. Okay, the very last one says, I must agree with Advocate Khwinana. Central to our problem is, number one, an all-rounder leadership from home, which is parents, community, which is councillors and ward committee, upward. To me, this means there is a lack of solicited leadership model that begins to set clear leadership standards and criteria bottom up. This will mean the nation has lost key nation building blocks, which means our moral fiber, our culture of taking on issues of great importance is either people has no platform to raise their frustrations, or people's voices have been muted. Those are the last comments from my side. Thank you very much, Mom.
Thank you, Mr. Mashego. Let me go to my panelists and ask them to respond to the questions that have been raised. If I can just ask Tabise Khwinana, if you can respond to any of the questions that are raised which directly impact on your work. And in doing so, you can also do your closing remarks, because thereafter, after you have spoken, will then be, after everybody has responded to all the questions, we'll be wrapping up the session. Over to you, Tabise.
All right, thank you so much. I suppose mine was not so much of a question, I would say, because I suppose it's more of a statement. And truth be told, our moral fiber as a society is what should always concern us when we are faced with corruption cases by our politicians almost on a daily basis, and that should really concern us. And one should also be worried that it would seem that it has filtered down to almost everyone. You know, it's no longer just the politicians. I mean, you also hear of certain things being done by doctors, professionals, you know, there's everything going around. So, and I must say that somebody said, why we should, as women, then be called upon. Women are naturalists. You know, I don't think that we should shy away from that responsibility. In fact, we have been called upon to do exactly that. Women are out there and they are building the nations. They're building the communities. That's us. You know, you can't even you can't even ask us how to do it. You know, we are just born with it. It is in us. It's our inner being. So I just did not take the name, but you know what? Don't be worried. We can do it. We were born like that. You know, that's the most pleasant thing that we should always embrace as women and just enjoy it. And of course, I do agree that those that looted should be brought to book. Anybody who is against the law must be brought to book. You know, that we should never stop doing. And okay, the other question, what are peace builders? communities. I suppose that one Celeste will tackle, but of course she has already explained how we do it. I can tell you that at Lupeko, we saw people being taught a lot through the chat room. And what has also been echoed in it is the peace. You know, even when you ask a question that one could regard as stupid, we embrace you. We ensure that you understand. So no question is actually stupid. You know, everybody's very clever in that forum. And just as a closing a remark on my part, I would say that we need to step up as communities, all of us. And I'm actually very glad that Madam Kgomo, we not only have us as elders, but we have young people as well. So which means that the conversations are really taking place. But most importantly, we need to ensure that this does not stop here. It cannot be done only during the month of August. This should be an ongoing thing so that, you know, we do not get surprised when things do not go right. We should actually go further and do it even in the month of July. You know, in church, we are told that's the month for men. You know, we should have men be out there being the one that are pioneering the processes, and they're having these conversations. So I would say, as South African Women Lawyers Association, we have taken it upon ourselves that we go into our communities and we teach. Please Google us. We are on website. We go from time to time with DOJ, like we are going to be doing now in the next coming 3 weeks. In different provinces we will be, and we're trying to go mostly in our most rural areas, and we go out there and we teach on different areas of the law at no cost to our communities. We just want to make sure that our people are learned. You know, they do not lack this information. It is out there for them to be able to, you know, to use it, because we have noted that access to information has been a stumbling block, and it should no longer be. And just to end off by, just to end off by saying this, we need to participate as a people. We need to train others, as we are already doing as Lupeko. We need to have those groups in our communities. And I was just thinking about it, that in our streets, you know, we should have a group there of the young people, of the mothers, of the fathers, and get those conversations going. We should encourage each other. And that is my piece. Thank you so much, Ma'am Kgomo.
Thank you, Khwinana, for those response and also your closing remarks. If I can go now to the young lady, Ms. Celeste Diale, if you can please respond to the question. I think it was more about information, young people saying, how do we get involved, and also make your closing remarks. Over to you, Celeste.
Thank you so much, Mama Kgomo. So I want to answer that question part and part with the one where they're asking about how do we get community-based peace. And my first thought is that, you know, on the 18th of March of 2021, the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security was launched. And I think, although we know that this is not sort of step one, these are some of the steps. These are some of the vehicles that we can take to start building community-based peace, right? And even though we know that it starts within the household, we know that now we've got a manual that we can use, which is the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. So without taking too much of your time, what I would like to give you now is just information on how you can get a hold of us, so that we can start having these conversations, and so we can start becoming part of the community that you're in, where you feel peace is needed, right? So on our Lady of Peace Community Foundation, you can go to www.lophecofoundation.org. That is www.lophecofoundation.org. And on our Twitter handle is Lady of Peace Com1, Lady of Peace Com1. And on Instagram is Lady of Peace. And then on our WhatsApp and Telegram chat room, which is called Peace Corner Family Online Chat Room, is 065-929-8719. And if you're a young person who's ready and already packed up, ready to go into our podcast and have conversations for your community, Peace Podcast is 064-181-7132. That is 064-181-7132. And that on our website is www.peacepod.world. www.peacepod.world. And on there, you can also find our Instagram and our Twitter handle, which is pod or peacepod_peace. So peacepod_peace. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure from this conversation, many of us have sparked the light, if not already ignited one, where we will go and figure out how we can peace build in our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cole, if you can also respond to some of the questions that were directed to you and also do your closing remarks. Over to you, Larry.
Thanks, Makgomo. I think I got quite a direct question, which is actually good. The question was, how do I as a man get involved in these type of initiatives, especially advocacy around women, for women equality? I think the first thing that is pivotal for it is pause and create self-awareness. And the reason I say that is, to start unpacking this, you need to go through some level of training. And it starts with a simple definition of unpacking what is the definition of peace, because you find that it's different in different societies, and what I understand as peace is different to what the next person might understand as peace. Especially for men, it's difficult to grasp on simpler concepts. And I think one of the simpler concepts is vulnerability. Once you as a male can tap into vulnerability, you can then identify the certain changes you have to embody yourself, because change starts within. And once you get to that level, then you can start impacting your community. Start. And when I say community, actually starts at home. Start understanding what your relationship is with your mother, what your relationship is like with your sisters and your nieces. And from that, you can then expand your privilege, so to say, to every single female that you ever engage with. And I think that's the first level of consciousness. I think what Celeste also alluded to, the National Action Plan of Women, Peace and Security, the first two pillars in that National Action Plan talks about participation and prevention. And that's where you'd find that once you get to that level of awareness, of vulnerability, of empowering yourself from an educational point of view, understanding what are the norms, because my perspective as a male is never the same as a perspective as a female. And that is the contribution that's the reason why we need females joining at tables and leading in a lot of the areas, because as a man, we don't have the full capacity to do it on our own. And I think once we start understanding that and appreciating that and not seeing that as a negative or a taboo, we can then evolve and help contribute and start solutioning and start coming up with plans. I think, again, I don't want to harp too long on COVID, but I think if COVID brought any positive, COVID definitely made us understand how important coping mechanisms are in our society, because without it, it just creates a buildup of tension that explodes, unfortunately, into the likes of the looting. And the coping mechanisms that were removed from the looting, and perhaps in closing, the coping mechanisms that were removed during the lockdown, and in closing, are your civil society structures, such as your churches. Your church has been locked down, not being able to socialize with your friends, not being able to go out. And those coping mechanisms are what from a psychological perspective, and I'm no psychologist, but those have impacts to you where you're unable to vent or unable to articulate certain emotions that you're going through and certain things that you're experiencing. And that's why it's important to get into the knowledge and information, tap into the resources that are available. Being part of these type of dialogues also help you broaden your understanding. And I think it requires also a level of humility where you need to appreciate the fact that you need to be taught and retaught as you progress in life. I mean, myself as a 31-year-old male, there's no way that I can think that I've achieved the prime level of my capacity without keep on being challenged and keep on testing and keep on breaking those barriers to become more and better. And from that, I can then extend my privilege to others that need help. And I guess it's simple as each one teach one, but that's where we need to really start. And if you guys want to engage more, if you even want to talk one-on-one, I think some of the channels Celeste raised, please do get in contact with us. Reach out to us from the GF Youth Journey website.org, as well as Generation Equality. Look at our Twitter handles, look at the hashtags, and you will find peace activists and women advocates that will be able to educate and also share knowledge in a safe environment where you can then also take it to your home and take it to your community. Yeah, and I think I'll pause over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. I think I just want to touch on the outcome of the South African Women Peace Table that was convened by the Gertrude Shobe Women Mediators Network, because out of that peace table, we actually came up with two very big fundamental documents. One of them is the declaration, and the other one was an outcome statement. In the declaration that the peace table developed and agreed upon, was that we needed to champion peace and security for all who live in South Africa, and that we need to support relief and recovery efforts during this crisis, including access to information on how to access agents' socioeconomic rights, such as food, water, medicine, vaccines, and social security grants. We also agreed that we need to work towards developing and implementing a conflict prevention mechanism which draw on indigenous knowledge and traditional peace-building mechanism at all levels. That means that at the grassroots, that means that in communities, that means everybody who is in the community level has to get involved. And we also then ended up by saying that we need to write a letter to the president. And in that letter has been written to the president, and we are currently waiting for the president to respond to the letter. Our final call was that we need to have a multiple and subsequent peace tables, including the need for a national dialogue as a country that will reflect on how new social contract for South Africa can actually be crafted and developed. And we do hear all the comments and the concerns that have been raised. And we believe that it doesn't end here. We need to continue having an engagement and dialogue into how we can build a sustainable peace, how we can actually use our instrument that we have at our disposal. I'm impressed with the young people who are actually talking about the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. They seem to really have gone through the document and understood that this is one of our instruments that we can use to build peace. And I want to also just, towards concluding, to take a book which is from the Gertrude Shobe Annual Dialogue Forum and quote a quote by May Gertrude Shobe when she concluded her message to us during the Gertrude Shobe Dialogue Forum. She said that, let your grandchildren someday, as they read history books, count you as the leader who were developed by leaders, like Me Albertina Sisulu. And she's talking basically about a mentorship and transferring knowledge and taking young people and other men along as we embark on this journey of peace. I just want to now wrap up this conversation with our participants. And I just want to thank you for a powerful session and thank Madam Speaker for having entrusted me with this task of steering this talk with the Speaker of Council and really sitting on her chair. And to our powerful panelists and listeners at home who took the time to watch and listen, And I just want to thank you for your engagement on different social media platforms and the radio stations for broadcasting live this evening topic. Would love to conclude this session with a quote again of Madikizela Mandela, because we are celebrating our women veterans who have paved the way for us to enjoy the freedom that we are enjoying now. And Madikizela Mandela said that if you are free, if you are to free yourself, you must break the chains of oppression yourself. Only then can we express our dignity. Only when we have liberated ourselves can we cooperate with other groups. Any acceptance of humility or of humiliation, indignity, or insult is acceptance of inferiority. That was Madikizela Mandela. I just want to thank you very much. We will meet again next week on Wednesday for another important topic. I just want to say thank you. Be safe. Observe the COVID-19 protocols. Have a blessed night. And thank you to all the panelists, the listeners. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mam Kgomo. Thank you very much. Well done.
Keep well, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Well done.
Thank you. Good night.
Good work, Mam Kgomo.